Honesty, passion, experience. It's Timberwolves Explosion, hosted on the sportstuff.com. And now, your host, Paladino Joey. Hello again, Timberwolves fans. Are you ready for the explosion of Timberwolves basketball? I'm your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Timberwolves Explosion is available on the sportstuff.com, iTunes, Stitcher, and Double Twist. Turns out I can be on board once again today. Kind of wet out there, and, you know, me and my brother are kind of slightly okay with the cleanup situation, so, what the hell. You know, nice to be back on board. I'm glad. See, I was saying, odds are I'm going to get shows in more often than not, so it's like a possible hiatus because sometimes I get super busy, can't do it, and sometimes it's okay. It's always the month of April, lawn cleanups. A lot of you know that about me, and some of you that don't, that's why there's been delays on occasion. Also, well, it's just kind of mop-up duty here. I mean, the month of April was just a bunch of mop-up duty, to be quite honest with you. And not saying the games didn't mean anything, but kind of, and it was kind of like red. It was just the Timberwolves, well, when you came into the month of April with 30 wins, did you think you'd finish the frickin' month with only 31? Bloody hell, mate. This is some BS. Yeah, some part Australian. Okay, sort of. Honorary at the bare minimum. And I'm very happy with that honorary Australian status. I'll take that 10 out of 10 times over not being an honorary Australian, that's for sure. But yeah, 1-7 finish to the season. Crappy month, I was saying basically these games are not going to get detailed reviews. They're just going to kind of go over them maybe real quickly, kind of brush them over with a fine-tooth comb, whatever. Sacramento game, Timberwolves just, the same thing. Terrible defense. Golden State game, terrible defense. Defense not so good against Portland, but a nice overall win. The only win of the month, 110-109. The Wolves finally beat the Portland Trailblazers. But unfortunately, again, this was a remake from March the 3rd, I believe it was. I keep getting it mixed up. March 5th, March 3rd, March 6th. The whole, condensation gate, all that. We're also going to talk about the new logo here, too. But I'm just going to kind of, again, go quickly over this. Alfred Amino, nice game off the bench. Lillard, solid. McCollum, not his best game, and that helped. I mean, he missed a lot of shots in the game. Karl was just absolutely huge. Rubio, 16 assists. Wiggins, 29. And Wiggins had multiple good games against the Blazers. He usually does, but Karl did as well. Ricky, again, fun to watch. Not the perfect game for anybody necessarily, but at the same time, solid overall game. Mostly the starters got most of the minutes in this one. Obviously, even Brandon Rush at almost 37 minutes in the game and still got 12 points, which is nice. Brandon Rush, don't expect to have him back necessarily, but maybe. I mean, he wouldn't be the worst guy to bring back. The Golden State game, this is an example of, I turned the game off because I couldn't watch it anymore. Not only because the Wolves' defense wasn't that good, but I just, there are certain players in this world and certain teams and just the body language. I can't watch that crap. I mean, the arrogance of this team is unbelievable. It is unacceptable to me. I hate them. I hate watching them, the Golden State Warriors. And it's gotten to a point now. See, back in the day, like the Flips Army page and T-Wolves Nation, all these other big Facebook pages out there that, in-game threads, where they go, oh, Steph Curry's this, Steph Curry's that. I mean, he's this, he's that. Now, people are waking up. They're seeing the constant shimmy, shammy, all this stuff, just the arrogance overall. Like, they think they can make any shot, anywhere, anytime, and, and just the reactions afterwards. I mean, every single time. And that's what made me not like the Thunder as well. Now, Warriors fans take this, is there some salt in there? Is there too much salt in your diet? And all these other, Steph Curry hurts your feelings. It's like, see, not only, it's one thing that your team is arrogant, but when your fan base is arrogant, it just makes me hate you even more. And it's just, you're not the Chicago Bulls. You're not the 90s Bulls. You're not even close. You couldn't hold a candle to that team, so screw you. Okay, there's one Warriors fan in this world that I like at this stage, Luke Williams, and he's a great guy from Australia, part of the whole courtside mafia out there. Courtside mafia, you get the idea, but courtside fan faithful and all that. I believe he's checked out Timberwolves Explosion on multiple occasions. Timberwolves fans out there, when this team gets good, don't you dare act like these people, please. I mean, don't be arrogant. Don't get a stick up your ass anytime anybody's it's just too much. But the good news is, I don't think Andrew Wiggins has that personality. I don't think Chris Dunn has it. I don't think Karl Anthony Towns has it. So that's the good news. You're not going to see the arrogance out of this club long term. I mean, and that's encouraging. Levine has a teeny tiny touch of it, but not really. Not really. It's just like, it's a quiet arrogance, kind of like Klay Thompson. That's why I don't really dislike Klay Thompson that much. And, Draymond Green, he's obnoxious. He's a jackass, but you know what? I have a soft spot for guys like Draymond Green, like the Dennis Rodman type, just physical, blue collar. Just, you can't, they just beat the crap out of you physically. They get the rebound. They play great defense. The effort is always there. So I have a soft spot for Draymond Green, despite the fact he drives me nuts. He with the arrogance. He's another arrogant one out there. But, and I've used that word probably too many times. You get the idea. Just look up arrogant and you'll see, and it'll say Golden State Warriors. Okay, Google, arrogance. Golden State Warriors. Yeah. Okay, and I know Vince Germato feels the same. I mean, the fan base needs to settle down a little bit. Seriously, I mean, yeah, okay, I better get off it, mate, very quickly. Plus, we were on a back-to-back. Okay, excuse making, I get it. Warriors, nice, strong finish to the season, but you're not going to win the title this year. I have a pretty good idea who is, and we'll talk about that in segment number 2. That's the idea here. Very brief little broad stroke brush here. As well as lose every bleeping game, the last 6 games, including the Laker game, which really, guys, and the double-digit losses the last couple of years are just, like, really? Like, are you serious? Like 12 double-digit losses this year? Or actually 12 double-digit leads blown, and you end up losing the game. I better word that a little better. Really? And like 22 the last 2 years. It's just... unbelievable. I mean, the number's 23 now. The numbers just keep adding up in that category, and it's horse crap, man. I don't know. I don't like it. It's a trend that's not going away, and it's been going on since Kevin Love and Rubio back in the Element days, and I don't know. The Warrior game why am I calling them the Warriors? Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't know if it's because of Kevin Durant or what, but the freaking Thunder, they sit down Mr. Westbrook. The logo's unveiled. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. And they are getting run the first quarter and a half of the game. Wolves make a nice comeback, get back in, and still end up losing 100-98. No Westbrook, no MVP candidate in the game. Unless you believe Karl Anthony Towns is an MVP candidate, which... he's getting there. I think next year he will be in that list. I don't know if he'll win it, but he'll be on the list, so to speak. He'll be on the short list, maybe at least the top 10 next season, at least. Karl Anthony Towns really emerging as one of the studs in this league. Houston game, no Ricky Rubio, and then you get to see the Rockets start things out early, hitting shots. Anderson just nailing them like he always does. Drives you crazy. But good on him. Hey, if you can make those catch-and-shoot shots, I mean, good on you. I'm not going to hate you. Just, as long as you're not a jackass about it every damn time you shoot the ball. I mean, that's what gets on me about the Warriors. But Anderson's not that kind of guy. But 15 attempts is a bit much. That's kind of silly, but I suppose that's his game. James Harden, another triple-double. He's the other Westbrook, I guess. I mean, he's just a machine out there. Got to give respect to Coach Pringles, even though he's not the Pringles anymore because the mustache is gone. I mean, maybe it was the mustache was cursing him, or just the fact it's a run-and-gun style team. And it's a team that played a slow style, and now with Howard gone, they're free to roam a bit more, and you bring in a run-and-gun style coach, and bada bing, bada boom, Houston Rockets up there with the elite teams in the league. You even hear Hank McCoy on the Courtside podcast predicting the Houston Rockets will win the NBA championship this year. I don't think it's as far-fetched as some people out there might say. I'm impressed. They're a good team. They just, every time you think you got them, you don't got them. They just slip away again. And all respect for the Houston Rockets for that. Mike D'Antoni, this is his best work in this league. The Knicks, it wasn't good. The Lakers, it was worse. The Suns, it was pretty damn good. And the Rockets, excellent. Who knows? Maybe this team will go all the way. They're going to have to get past the Spurs first, though, in the second round, because I do think the Rockets will be in the second round. I'm pretty sure, but I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch, though. Can't deny that it's going to be quite an entertaining first-round matchup between the Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. That'll be fun. 16 assists for Chris Dunn. That was fun. Fun to see. It was annoying, though, how the Wolves built a sizable lead. 9 points in this one. They didn't quite get to double digits this time around, so we can't tack that one onto the list. And then the Rockets, just the third quarter. I mean, just the whole damn season this year and other seasons as well, but this year especially, even more so. When you have a team that's improving and all that, and you build big leads, and then and then Wile E. Coyote takes over. Was that last year or this year? I think that was last year, wasn't it, when I did the Wile E. Coyote wall? Well, yeah, so it just shows you how often it happens. It's all too frequent. The Wile E. Coyote wall where you're just, yeah. James Harden in this case was ahead of the Wolves a little bit, came up, painted a tunnel on a big stone wall, big rock, and ran, and then the Wolves come and try to run through it, and boom, that's basically what happened. So that's basically what's been happening the last couple of years when the Wolves build big leads, and then they just can't keep it going. Frustrating game, but nice to see Chris Dunn have a nice one and all that. Some garbage time and all that, too. Nice garbage time fourth quarter, 37 points for the Wolves, and they still lose by 5. Kind of a nice comeback, made things interesting, but ultimately not getting the job done. Again, 16 assists for Chris Dunn, starting in Rubio's stead. 10 points, 16 assists. I said that 20 times now. Karl Anthony Towns, another 20-20 game. You had the game the other night when you had Karl and Andrew both getting in the 40-point range. I got to talk about this very briefly as well, the Laker game. Yeah, I'll talk about this one briefly. Laker game on April the 9th. The Lakers end up winning by 1 point. Stupid Russell getting the nice little roll and all that. Yeah, the Lakers end up taking over, winning the game because of that. Obviously, that was the game-winning shot at the buzzer. Wiggins and Towns, unbelievable. A 40-20, the first 40-20. I believe Kevin Love maybe did it once. And then the first ever 40-40 in Wolves history, and it's only happened like a couple times in the NBA history. Just very, very few times. That's that two players got into 40 points. Amazing night for Wiggins and Towns. Wiggins getting to the line, showing you what he can be as he continues to develop. The lack of rebounds, only 2, 1 assist, just again shows he needs to develop more multifacets to his game. I mean, they're there, but he's not showing them. He's not displaying them, and it's really frustrating. Karl Anthony Towns, again, a 40-20 night, but again, not enough. That stinking D'Angelo Williams got hot near the end there, and, of course, was able to hit his shot. The problem is nobody rotated over to D'Angelo Russell. I mean, that's the thing. He shouldn't have had that shot. At least not a good look at the shot, at the ball. I mean, it's one thing if you get the shot off, but if you're blocked pretty good, hand in the face, all that, odds drop a little bit that he's not going to make it. And unfortunately, he had a pretty good look at that basket. And it's just, I don't know, it's typical of the Wolves the last couple of years. Last several years feels like forever. And that's how things went. Nice to see a 40-40 game, though. Wiggins and Towns. Embarrassing and frustrating to lose to a team that's really not trying to win. It's just bullcrap. The Wolves lose both games at Staples Center this year in frustrating fashion when things were going so well. Things fall apart at the end, and you lose them both. And that's why the Wolves aren't in the playoffs today. I mean, you got to win games like that if you're going to be taken seriously. And they didn't, so it is what it is. The Wolves finished 31-51 on the season. Did they reach my expectations this year? No. When you bring in Tom Thibodeau, who was, well, you know, like the architect of the great defense of the Celtics years ago. Awesome defense on that team. He ended up becoming a head coach in 2009 with the Bulls and just took over after, again, the 2008 Celtics, and just how great his defense has been in the past. Houston Rockets and others in the past as an assistant coach, defensive coordinator, all that. You expect a little bit better. And then you're seeing defense that's in sometimes almost worse. And obviously he's trying to get to them. I don't know, it's not reaching them. Some nights you're seeing signs of it, but this whole month, I mean, the Wolves gave up well over 100 points in every single game, except the OK City game. I mean, they gave up 100 in that game. 100, that's the minimum. You give up 123 to Houston, 110 to the Lakers, 120 to Utah, 105 to Portland, 121 to the Warriors, 110 to the Blazers again, 123 to the Sacramento Kings. That's appalling, and that was at home in Target Center. 123 to the Kings? I mean, who do they have? Seriously? The Kings? Who do they have? Who? Tell me, please, come on. Where's Mitch Richmond in his prime? I mean, I don't see it. Really? At home, too. At home. So, those of you disappointed in Tom Thibodeau so far, yeah, I'm disappointed. But it's partially the Wolves need to absorb some of the lesson as well at hand, and they're not seeming to do it at this stage. I don't know if he's not relating to them correctly, they're not learning, or the schemes aren't good, or what the hell's going on, or they're confused. But this has got to change. I mean, the whole month of April, it was this bad. You think you'd start seeing little signs, and at the same time, we know how April can be a trap month. Guys have a big month, and then you want to sign with this big old offer sheet. You get him, you're stuck with him for 5 years at this price. He's way overpriced, and he just turns in nothing for you after that. He misses practices, the Ricky Davises of the world, the Isaiah Ryder type players of the world. So, it is what it is. So let's talk about the logo. Yeah, Isaiah Ryder was in town. We're happy for him. Kind of snapped at Darren Doogie Wolfson on the Scoop podcast, but then apologized the next day. So, okay. Don't like the attitude from Isaiah Ryder. Really, really, man. I think not cool. But at the same time, I don't know if Doogie needed to ask him about the frozen pipes and all that. Is that really necessary? I mean, I don't know. It just kind of was headed the way it was one way or another. Got to congratulate Karl Anthony Towns. He posted a Timberwolves all-time single-season record, all-time this season. So congratulations. Awesome. He passed Kevin Love, who had amassed that total in 2014 because he actually stayed freaking healthy that time around. He finally stayed healthy enough. That was, of course, his final season with the Wolves, 2,010 points. To think all those years that Garnett never reached 2,000 points in all those 82 seasons, even his MVP season in 2004, that being Garnett. 1987 were his total points. Andrew Wiggins got into the 1930s. Yep, he's in the 30s there, the old days with the Mafia. Okay, I'm just kidding. 1933 total points. Karl Anthony Towns, 2,061. So overall, big congratulations there. Single season scoring record, only his second season in the league, and he's the youngest guy ever to average 25 points and 10 rebounds in a season. So again, awesome. Great signs of the future for this club. 25.1 points a game for Karl Anthony Towns. That's amazing. 12.3 rebounds and 1.3 blocks. I'd like to see the blocks come up. The rebounds are what they are. Hopefully they continue to climb at times. I mean, Andrew Wiggins' strong season as well, 23.6. Yes, Zach LaVine was out and everything, but it also shows how great these guys could be when, you don't always necessarily need a third guy kind of taking a ton of shots. But, okay, if he does and he's great, then so be it. But I think this identifies to you who are the two stars of the team long term. If Zach LaVine's willing to have that third star role on this club, they could be a great team for many years, and it's not the worst thing in the world. James Harden was pretty damn good with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they might have won multiple championships if those guys stuck together, but they didn't. That's the question in the future here. Will these guys stick together? That's the hope. That's ultimately the hope here. Ricky Rubio, strong second half of the season, ended up with 9.1 assists a game, 11 points a game. Not bad numbers total when you consider he started the season pretty weak ultimately at the end of the day. But nice to see him with the strong finish. I mean, and it was an extended period. It wasn't just April. It was February, it was March, and it was April during the playoff chase. So Ricky Rubio represented very well for the Timberwolves. Nikola Pekovic, without a doubt to me, has played his last game with the team. It's just, when is the buyout finally going to happen? Is it finally going to be this summer? Or what's the deal? During the month of March, Ricky Rubio averaged almost 18 points a game, 10.5 assists, 12 points a game in February, 10.5 assists, 14 points in 7 games in April, 10.5 assists. So good. That's a nice player, especially the 18 and 10.5 deal in March and 14 games. Would be awesome to see Ricky Rubio continue to bring that to this club in the future. He even added almost 10 assists in January as he started to emerge, did Ricky Rubio, 10 points a game. And he actually shot very strong in January for his standards. So thus far, it was his second best month, 41.3%, but March, 47.2%, just dazzling. And he also hit 44% of his threes. Again, him being Ricky Rubio overall, just a wonderful second half to the season. Is he the point guard of the future for the Wolves? That's kind of overstating things a little bit. But is he the point guard of the present? Yes. Point guard of the future, though, like you're going to keep him another 10 years? I can't say that. I can't. And it was nice to see Chris Dunn have a good last game of the season. That was encouraging. It shows you there's something there to work with. I don't think Johnny Flynn ever had 16 assists in a game. So it's something to work with, at least. It's something. So, cool. Shall we talk about the logo a little bit? It sucks. No, I'm kidding. This took place during the Oklahoma City Thunder game. Wolves were getting beat the crap out of by that Thunder team, and it seemed like after the logo was unveiled, you saw a nice surge by this team, and that was cool to see at the end of the day. So, again, it's a circular logo. I'm not big on the circle logos too much. Now, of course, the original logo for the Wolves was a circle, and it was awesome. It's classic. I love the color scheme. I like the style of art for that one. This one's kind of like a modernized version in a sense. The wolf is obviously looking upward, and, that's cool, kind of howling upward, just like the secondary logo for the Wolves. And I guess there's a North Star, a green North Star in the basketball. I guess that's what that's supposed to be. That's cool. I like you bring back the green eyes, which were on the original logo and all that. What I don't like is it's just, I don't know, it's kind of stock. It's just this circle logo, Minnesota Timberwolves. It's so stock looking. That's what I don't like about it. Like, it's been there, done that. It looks like it could go right on Canis Hoopus' website or something. I mean, and it's no disrespect to Canis Hoopus if you're listening. It's just, it's one thing if it's your website logo and it's a good website and everything. It's another, though, if it's the brand of the actual, the brand of the actual team you're covering, the actual brand logo, and it looks like a website. So the color scheme is excellent. I'll give them that. But the whole circular Minnesota Timberwolves thing, it just, it's lacking. It's lacking. It's just, I don't know. That's what makes me call it a 7 out of 10 on a 1 to 10 scale versus like an 8 or 9. It's not going to get it. Back in the day, it seems like every seven, the Wolves changed their logo. See, in 87, the Minnesota Timberwolves were named, and of course 2 years later they became an NBA franchise, and you had that circle logo with, the classic look. And then in 97, actually it was 96, which is driving me crazy, so it really wasn't the 7s, but 96, 97, the Wolves changed their brand because we're bringing in Stephon Marbury to join Kevin Garnett. The future was extremely bright, and all the excitement, and you saw a logo at the time where it was a meaner Timberwolf, and I liked the blue Timberwolves at the bottom, and it looked really cool. And the trees were nice and detailed, and they were a pine green, not like a bright green. It was a nice look. And then 10 years later, which was the 7, so I guess it's 3 7s or 2 7s in a row, I suppose. They're all relative to each other, you could say. But in 2007, the Kevin Love era, no more Garnett, Kevin Love, Al Jefferson, and all that, you get a new logo. And the Timberwolves changes to, it says Timberwolves still. It's still the same scheme with the trees, the wolf, the angry wolf. But then they give a little white shade to the side of the wolf's face, and Timberwolves turns from that blue color to a more plain-looking white color. The trees go from kind of a detail to a lighter green. That's not changing a logo. The jerseys look different and all that, sure. But that's not changing a logo. It's just a facelift. It's kind of lame. So I can understand where people got frustrated with that. So it's like you were basically stuck with the same logo for 20 years, but a kind of a not as good version of the original one in 1996, like the original new logo, we'll say. To me, that second one was very good, especially at its time. It brings back good memories. Marbury was a rookie. Garnett was going into his second year, just getting started. A lot of good memories. Tom Gugliotta, all that, had his career season, went to the All-Star game, and man, that was fun to watch. You had Dean Garrett, who was a nice fill-in at center. You even had Stojko Vrankovic. Funny, I can remember that guy. Terry Porter, veteran, and Sam Mitchell, veteran. It was a fun group of players. Chris Carr was a young guy. Hopefully he would be something in this league. Okay, he competed in the slam dunk contest, made a couple of three-pointers, couldn't guard anybody, so I don't know. Whatever, but who can guard anybody these days, it seems like. But I will give the Wolves' new logo a 7 out of 10. Those out there didn't get a whole lot of feedback on it thus far from Timberwolves Explosion listeners on the Facebook page. Hopefully I can get more, and you're welcome to please post those on there, and I will talk about them more and more in the fan interaction segments in the future. But I will get to Vince Germano's comment later. I'll get to... Actually, I could do it even now. Marcus the Forecaster says it looks a little too Disney for me. I'd rather have the wolf from the secondary logo. Yep, that's the one looking up. Yeah, and they're both looking up, of course. The ball looks like a blueberry, and that green thing doesn't look like a star at all. Yeah, I can see that. Not much, you know. It looks like a shuriken or something. The green thing. I like how Marcus said that. The green thing. Paul Tuvenroy's Caniff, who definitely has an art background in his past. His response to the whole logo is not an improvement for me. I like the trees of the other logo. The one with the wolf looking directly at you instead of howling. Now, of course, yes, that's the ones in the Garnett era and the Kevin Love era. But I think, yeah, he ultimately joined the Garnett era one. Again, the first Garnett era, the real Garnett era, we'll say, in the late 90s and into the 2000s, the mid-2000s. I said he liked the way the wolf had a dark side of the face and the light side. It was a nice touch. Yep, how it was like, the sun was coming from one side, that type of deal, and it's shaded on the other. He said it really looked menacing, just like the Bulls logo, similar kind of thing. There was already an older Howling logo, which looked better because there were trees in the background. Yep, and that's the one that's been on the court the last couple of years, too. The secondary logo. It's actually been around kind of a while, and it's not bad. He says, I prefer the one, the Garnett one, the 96. That's what keeps driving me nuts. 96 to 2007 era with the blue Timberwolves, not the white with a blue background Timberwolves. He said he liked the glowing eyes. Yep. On the original logo, he said it was a little too simplistic. The secondary logo was the best. The second logo was the best. And he liked, the Howling secondary logo that's been around the last several years, last about 5 to 10 years here with the Wolves. The circular one on the court. So, not too bad. New logo, regardless, it's on the Facebook page, it's in the background, it's there, it's there, regardless if it's the best logo ever or the worst logo. It's certainly not the worst. It's not bad. I'm not pissed off, I'm not disappointed, but I'm not like, oh my God, I'm gonna go crazy. It's real rare these days that I'm blown away by a logo. I mean, it seems like hockey is the best when it comes to logos, and it's kind of been that way forever. I mean, the Calgary Flames logo is so cool, even though it's just a C, but it's so well done with the Flames. And obviously the North Star, it's just an N pointing to a star, but it's so classic, it's so good. And you could go on forever. One of the best NBA logos for me is the Celtics. Yes, it's a circle, but the detail is perfect, and it's just so good. It's so well done, and it represents so nicely. Atlanta Hawks, again, also in the 80s, awesome. The Hawks usually have a pretty cool-looking logo, I have to admit, and the uniforms have been awesome most of the time, except when they had the... around mid-2000s until 2 years ago, it was probably their worst era for their uniforms. But, we'll kind of let that be as is. So, there it is. There's your new logo, your big blueberry-looking thing. I like the color scheme. I think it's an interesting change. Is it an upgrade? We'll see when it comes to the uniforms. You're always hearing from people, oh, they look really cool, but, let's be our own. Let's be the judge for ourselves on that one. It's up to you how you feel, what the jersey or the logo looks like. You can hear how cool it is all you want, but not everybody's going to feel that way. So we'll just let it play out here in the summer. For me, 7 out of 10 for the new Timberwolves logo. Now let's talk about the postseason right after this. And we are back here on Timberwolves Explosion, segment number 2, the feature presentation, at least of this episode, because we're going to preview the playoffs a little bit. Going to give you my predictions and all that. The Sweet 16 of the National Basketball Association. Always fun to look forward to in the months of April, May, and ultimately June. The first 2 rounds are the most fun in terms of the amount of games. Now, oftentimes there's a lot of junk in the first round, so the second round, in a lot of ways, is the best of the best. You get the amount of games and the higher quality. You eliminate some of the junk, like the Chicago Bulls. I would call them junk. There's some other teams in the Eastern Conference that I think could make things a little interesting. And, of course, the Western Conference, pretty much top to bottom, is pretty good. Even Portland is a dangerous team, I think. But, unfortunately for them, the matchup is not favoring. Let's go to the East first, like we always do. Boston Celtics clinched the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland bumbling around, stumbling and bumbling around. I don't know, man. But that doesn't mean they're going to lose or anything. It also doesn't mean they're going to win. Their chances have diminished big time. And there's a team in the Western Conference that I think would beat them easily. And it's not necessarily the Warriors, is it? And, yeah. The Boston Celtics, yes, they earned the number 1 seed, but at the same time, they got it because of Cleveland's bumbling. The Cleveland Cavaliers should have won 60 games this year. They absolutely should have won 60 games this season. So, to me, it's, more of an underachievement than anything else in terms of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Celtics versus Bulls. Talk about underachieving. The Chicago Bulls are terrible. Brad Stevens has been a wonderful coach for the Celtics for the longest time. It had kind of been like a group of players put together with bubblegum and duct tape, just kind of Super Mario Brothers style of repairing the plumbing, that type of stuff. Real cheap kind of, yeah. And it wasn't in a mean way. It's just that he didn't have a whole lot to work with. And then they have that first year, and then they made the playoffs and all that. And if you think Kelly Olynyk's a great player, you're crazy. But then they got beat by Cleveland, and at the same time they did serious damage to Kevin Love. Mr. Kelly Olynyk tangled up Kevin Love and injured the guy's shoulder. Was it intentional? Was it not? It's probably mostly just being aggressive and not really putting any consideration into the thought that the guy's arm is stuck in there and could do serious damage when you yank on it. But yeah, that's just how that goes. But the Celtics having a hell of a time getting out of the first round the past 2 years. So, of course, again, running into Cleveland the first time under Brad Stevens. The second year, significant improvement. They win 48 games, but they lose in 7 games to the Atlanta Hawks, who were the number 1 seed the previous year. How crazy is that? So Cleveland could still get to the finals, even though they're not the number 1 seed. But just saying, not going into the playoffs with the right mindset at the moment. The Bulls are terrible. I don't know how they made it. I wish the Heat made it. I mean, I don't know how this Bulls team made it. Jimmy Butler's good and all that, but after, I don't know. It's not a good makeup. They finished 500. They win 2 games to sneak in at the end. The Heat won 3 games. It just wasn't enough. Tiebreaker goes to Chicago. How lame is that? And it is what it is. The Hornets' strong season didn't make it. The Orlando Magic, right hot off the press or hot off the Wi-Fi, whatever you want to say, are making a change there in Orlando with at least the general manager. He's on his way out, as the Magic have not been good for a long time. But the Boston Celtics should win that series in 4 or 5 games, I think. I think they're way better than the Bulls. I think the Bulls going in are not an impressive team at all. Number 2 versus number 7. Interesting matchup. And you got Mr. Stevenson, yes, going back to Lance Stevenson, going back to Indiana. How cool is that? Now we can try to get in LeBron James' nerves again. And right now, LeBron James is very irritable. 51-31. Who saw that? I saw 61-21, not 51-31. A 10-game difference from what I expected from this team. And you know what? It was the right thing to expect. This is not correct, what's going on here. Oh, they won the Central Division, but the second-place team won 42 games. I mean, whatever. Indiana Pacers, number 7 seed. They're very dangerous. I think they'll make it interesting. This could go 6. There'll be a little time in this series where the Pacers are playing with a little bit of confidence. Of course, Paul George is a great player. He had better numbers last year, but still a great player. Jeff Teague is a very solid point guard. He's had a strong overall season. To me, the Pacers should make things interesting, but I'm going to pick the Cleveland Cavaliers in 6. I think they'll outlast the Pacers. They'll turn it on now that the playoffs are here, because pretty much that's what LeBron James's whole mindset is at this point. I got to think is postseason more than regular season, because it's like he's been to the finals 6 years in a row now, or is it 7 years in a row? Just insane when you consider how things are going with that. And it has been 6 years in a row, because you consider 11-16. That's a big number. So that's quite a few times. So obviously, at this point, LeBron James, the regular season, it's just a whole different ballgame to the postseason. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cavaliers return to the finals, but it's going to be a little bit of a road to get there. Obviously, you got some competition along the way. Pacers have been a pain in the ass in the past. Toronto's pretty good, and they kicked the crap out of Cleveland in the last game of the season. They're lucky that the tiebreaker didn't favor Toronto. Otherwise, Cleveland would have been the 3rd seed, because Toronto and Cleveland tied in wins-loss records. So crazy. It's like Cleveland just said, "Oh, what the hell?" Though pretty much, can they consider they already had clinched number 2. So I suppose that's how that went. Toronto number 3 versus Milwaukee. That's going to be a fun series. Really like the Bucks. It's not because Jason Kidd's the coach, but it's because of the makeup of the team. It's a shame about Jabari Parker, the injury. Just oft injured, multiple ACLs to the same knee now, ACL injuries to the same knee, the left knee. Unfortunately, the poor guy, just going up for a layup or getting rebounds or whatever, and then the knee buckles, and it's just, you're done, and it sucks. I feel real bad for him. Obviously, similar thing taking place with Zach LaVine this season. You just never think it's going to happen, and then it does, and it's just, you feel so bad about it. I feel terrible. Toronto, obviously, you got Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, one of the better backcourts in the NBA. I won't call it the best anymore, James, out of New York. So hopefully you're still listening. Hopefully I didn't scare you away at all with some of my stupid analogy there, right? Yes, I know the Splash Brothers are the best backcourt. I still hate them, though. And the second best backcourt might be the Portland Trailblazers, who they're playing against. I mean, McCollum versus Lillard, that's about as good as it gets. Unbelievable. Though Toronto, probably a little better. I don't know. There's other good backcourts in this league, but that's one of the top of the top of the top of the top of the top. So, amazing. Toronto, Milwaukee, again. It's like Toronto should win this series. The Bucks should make it interesting, though. I think the Bucks will push it to 6, and if they don't, that's too bad. It might only be 5. It just kind of depends on how ready this Bucks team is to compete in the playoffs. If they're not ready, they'll lose in 5. Like they'll sneak in a win, maybe game 3, game 4, and Toronto will close it out in the 5th game at home. But I don't know. The Bucks should push this to 6, maybe even 7. I mean, if they have the talent, they have the ability, the depth. I mean, the Greek Freak is one of the best players in the league now. So I don't know. I really like this Bucks team. I like their future. Greg Monroe is still solid. He's not as good as other guys out there, but he's still got the talent. It's funny how they don't really have like a floor general out there. I mean, it's mostly Giannis has got the most assists on the team. He led the team in assists during the season. Kind of a triple-double type of guy. Numbers drop during the course of the season. That's the only thing. Chris Middleton, another talented guy who can't stay healthy, just like Jabari Parker. It's a shame. Michael Beasley getting some minutes here and there, so good for him. Matthew Dellavedova is the main point guard, but, he's more of a defensive guy. He's solid. Jason Terry, an ancient spark plug off the bench. They have some nice three-point shooters. They have all kinds of different players here on this roster. So, I don't know. They'll make it interesting, but I picked Toronto to win it in 6 at the end of the day. They should beat the Milwaukee Bucks. The Washington Wizards and the Atlanta Hawks, a couple teams that played a couple years ago, went to a 7-game series, and the Hawks outlasted the Washington Wizards. That was nice for them. Paul Pierce was on the Wizards at the time. Couldn't hit the jumper in the 7th game, and the Hawks survived to the East Finals for the first time in many years, way back in the different format when there were only 2 rounds to get to the finals. That's the last time the Hawks made it to the East Finals. They'd never been to the 3rd round, so to speak, in their history. So we're talking 40-plus years ago. Mike Budenholzer versus Mr. Scott Brooks, former Timberwolf. Hell of a job by Scott Brooks and the Washington Wizards, considering an awful start to the season. And, of course, teams adjust to their new coach, their new system, this and that. But it just seemed like, oh, man, they're just not up for it. And then they end up just picking it up, and they start winning games like crazy. And, you look at the Washington Wizards logo, and it's like, what the hell? It's just like the Timberwolves, isn't it? The only thing missing is the wolf. You got the star in the middle. You got the circle, Washington, and then Wizards on the bottom. Yeah, well, it's kind of stock. It's stock, isn't it? But I guess that's how it goes. I mean, what matters is the uniforms more than anything, I think. I don't know. I mean, Wizards, one of the better shooting teams in the league. 2nd best field goal percentage in the NBA. 8th best 3-point percentage overall. Very good offensive juggernaut. You got John Wall and all these others. Bradley Beal. Washington just continues to step up this year, and I think they should be able to beat the Hawks. I like the Hawks a lot, and I just adore their uniforms. But, Dwight Howard, and the Hawks have lost some valuable guys over the years. They still have Millsap. They still have some talent. Schroeder's been a nice point guard, and it's like, something had to give between Jeff Teague and Schroeder. But I don't know. I just think this Wizards team is deeper, stronger. Again, Bradley Beal, Otto Porter. He's not like a statistical stud, but at the same time, he kind of does a little bit of everything. He's a solid guy. Marcin Gortat, solid veteran center, kind of again a double guy every game. I mean, I've always liked Gortat. Marcus Thornton, a spark plug off the bench. I mean, you got all kinds of guys. Trey Burke is just, I mean, and Brandon Jennings is always hurt. Whatever. I mean, you almost forget he exists. Trey Burke, boy, again, another guy. I mean, if you're a young guy looking for minutes, looking to have some type of a future in this league, when you were looked on to be one of the, a future possible, I won't say star, but like the level underneath it maybe in this league, Washington is not the place to go, unless John Wall gets hurt all the time, which he hasn't. So, I don't understand. I don't understand why Trey Burke went to Washington Wizards. I don't get it. Markieff Morris also has done a very strong job there in Washington. They should win the series. 6 or 7, though. I mean, the Hawks are going to put up a fight. Budenholzer's done a really good job defensively with the Atlanta Hawks the last few years. Again, the number 1 seed a couple of years ago, but then the freaking Cavaliers swept them in the East Finals. It just figures. You finally get there for the first time in forever. You don't even get there once with Dominique because of freaking Detroit and freaking Boston. It's like, what are you going to do? You had Boston in the early 80s, Detroit in the late 80s. You're screwed. You're screwed, Dominique, and that sucks. I felt so bad. I love the Hawks. I do, especially back then. And it's like, it sucks. They're always running into dynasties. Like, whenever they're good, they're running into a dynasty. Or just a hot team. Like, in the mid-90s, Hawks were number 1 team and all that. Number 1 seed in the East, they trade Dominique. I mean, that's on them. I mean, that's on you, buddy. What the hell, general manager of the Hawks? Trade Dominique for Danny Manning. Why? And underachieving number 1 overall pick for your franchise-like player, and he's finally got a number 1 seed. Michael Jordan's finally gone, at least for a year, and you do that? Idiots! Morons! What's wrong with you? I can't believe it. Like, what if the Wolves traded Garnett? What if they did? What if they traded Garnett for Dwight Howard in 2004? How do you think that would have went over? You think that would have went over real good? It wouldn't even have been Dwight Howard. It would have been some, like, I don't even know, like an Al Jefferson or something. Yeah, just same trade, right? Morons! Yeah, I'm not bitter about it still though at all. I'm just putting on a show. I don't mean it or anything. Don't mean it at all. I'm not telling you how I really feel or anything, but morons. It's just, old history with this team. I wish, I wish for them. They finally had it. They trade him. And then they run into Indiana and get beat pretty easily. And, whatever. Pacers end up getting beat by Orlando. Boring, lame. And then you had the Rockets roll all over the, whatever. Actually, it was the Knicks. The Knicks beat the Pacers. Pardon me. That was the year before. The Pacers were the next year with the Orlando Magic. The Knicks beat the Pacers. That's right. That was 94 when the Hawks did that terrible tragedy. Okay, so who's going to win this frickin' series? Paul Millsap, obviously, he's been a great player, but, he's never going to, he's never like a full-on star. Sure, he's made the All-Star game, but, and Dwight Howard, he's not what he was. He's still okay, though, a double-double guy. I think the Wizards win this series, but it's going to go 7. It's going to be a long one. Wizards are just a better team. They're strong. They're solid. Their offense is gonna beat the Hawks defense, basically, for me at the end of the day. Nice to see Tim Hardaway Jr. emerge during the course of the season, kind of off the bench, but his minutes have increased. He ended up being the 3rd leading scorer on the club. Schroeder, as I got Jordan Schroeder on the Wild, on Minnesota Wild, and Dennis Schroeder on the Hawks. So it's confusing. Nice spark, a nice scoring threat has been Dennis Schroeder. 18 points a game and all that, 6 assists. Just a solid young guy with a bright future. But it's not going to be enough to match John Wall and all these other solid players. Otto Porter with Washington. 7-game victory for the Washington Wizards. So let's move on. I'm dragging this way too far. I think the Celtics after that would beat the Wizards in 6, something along those lines. And then Toronto versus Cleveland. I think the Cavaliers go back to the East Finals. That'll be a 6 or 7 gamer between those two. And Boston and Cleveland. Cleveland's going to have to win on the road in that case. I don't know. We'll come back to that in a minute. Western Conference, Golden State Warriors, Portland Trail Blazers. They're no longer the Jail Blazers. Obviously, that's super old, and it was like 15 years ago, so I probably should stop calling them that. That's kind of silly. It's like calling Detroit the Bad Boys. Yeah, it's kind of old. Not quite as old, but I hate the Warriors so much. But Portland is a nice threat. They score points like crazy. C.J. McCollum is an awesome shooting guard. He's capable of having an off night, but he's like really young still. He's only in his second year as a starter. First year as a, only in his third year overall. He's been a solid player in this league. Or is it his fourth year already? Wow, that's crazy to imagine. But the Wolves passed on him in the draft a couple of years ago. I believe that was the Muhammad draft. McCollum, though, really emerged nicely with Portland and Lillard. Great backcourt. They have some solid guys up front, but more in their backcourt where they combine for huge numbers, like 60-point, 70-point type of nights. Similar deal with the Splash Brothers. They're kind of like a miniature Splash Brothers and all that. The Warriors should win that series in 5. Unfortunately, I think they'll start this playoff strong, and then a certain team will be ready for them later. That's kind of how the Warriors are. They usually start things out strong. They go against a team that's capable of doing something like Houston last year and Portland 2 years ago as well. But then ultimately the Blazers just not up for the challenge at the end of the day. Golden State in 5. L.A. Clippers, Utah Jazz. No, let's go to number 2 seed first. Sorry. Spurs versus Memphis. Old Fezziwig, Mr. Fizdale, just did a wonderful job with the Memphis Grizzlies this year, keeping them together, keeping things rolling. Kicked the Wolves' ass multiple occasions when he didn't Popovich things. Now he's going against Greg Popovich, and nobody's going to be resting. And if they do, that's really bad. Obviously, they live off their defense. Do the Memphis Grizzlies because their field goal percentage is one of the worst in the league. They're not a great three-point shooting team either. They're low scoring, but they really, 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 really live off that defense and physical play. Marc Gasol overall just one of the best defenders in the NBA and a historically great defender in this league. Zach Randolph coming off the bench, kind of prolonging his career like an old tire, like an old Firestone tire or something like that, or Goodyear is more like it. Just really hanging in there and still a threat, a physical guy. He just still gets the job done. Same with Tony Allen. And Fizdale has just done a wonderful job with a team that's, there's some ancient players on this roster. Vince Carter, an ageless wonder. I really respect the fact he's stuck in this league into his 40s, still averaging 8 points a game. And stayed healthy enough to play 73 games. Wow, Garnett couldn't do that anymore. And so it's just, and obviously that stinking knee injury in 2009 is what kind of did Garnett in, I'd have to say. And, just things, bits and pieces here and there, too many minutes when he was younger, that too. Jermichael Green, a threat, just a pain in the ass in the Wolves side, and a valuable up-and-coming player for the Memphis Grizzlies. He'll never be a star, but he'll be one of those sought-after guys who is just, everybody likes a player like Jermichael Green, and every team would like to have a Jermichael Green on their roster. The Spurs should beat them, though. Kawhi Leonard, I think, is the best player in the NBA. Yeah, I said it. You got Russell Westbrook with the crazy triple-doubles, James Harden with insane numbers. Everybody thinks those two guys are MVPs without a doubt. And then there's still LeBron James, and then there's Steph Curry, who is not the MVP. He's just not. I'm going to talk about that later, though, when we get to the third round. You can kind of guess who I think is going to be there, even though Houston could make things interesting, too. But the Spurs team, they're ready. They're ready for a magical run, I think. 61-21, they're basically what I thought Cleveland was going to be. 61-21. I figured the Spurs would be maybe 57, something like that. They'd hang in there, but they'd probably not go all the way. That's what I thought coming into the season. But there's just something about this Spurs team. I can feel it. Memphis will make things interesting a little bit here and there. They'll be kind of a thorn in the side, but the Spurs should get past them in 5. I think they should, as long as they stay healthy. There's no freak type of situations going on. And then you go on to the other one, Houston versus Oklahoma City Thunder. This will be a very entertaining series, but I think it's going to be the way it's been most of the year with the Oklahoma City Thunder, where Russell Westbrook will put up crazy numbers. He'll get his 50 points or 44 points and 10 rebounds and 13 assists, and they'll lose. And that's kind of the way it's been. The Rockets are just better. Number 2 seed, or excuse me, not number 2 seed, but they're second place behind the Spurs and number 3 seed in the West. Unfortunately for them, 55 wins. It's not crazy, but they're a dangerous club. They shoot threes like no tomorrow, and of course, James Harden, he plays that slow motion game, but the ball goes in the basket every single freaking time as he drives to the basket or he launches 3-point shots. Doesn't have the most accurate 3-point shot, but he'll make him when he needs to. That type of thing. Gordon's deadly. Ryan Anderson's insane with his catch and shoot and all that. To me, the Rockets should beat Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm sure the Thunder will make things interesting here and there. They'll win 1 or 2 games. It'll be, I'll say, Rockets in 6 at this stage, and you'll have a pretty nice battle in the second round. Clippers and Utah. The Jazz are the better team. The Clippers had a strong season and all that. They have the same record. I don't know. It seems like there's always something with the Clippers. They're always hurt or something. Like somebody's off this night or somebody's inconsistent with this. Somebody's trying to do that. There's always something with the Clippers. But I think the Jazz are just basketball players. That's how I look at Utah. They're just a basketball team out there trying to get the job done. And Gordon has done so well. Gordon Hayward has done so well for the Utah Jazz this season. And to me, there's no reason that I think the Utah Jazz aren't going to win the series. They should win it in 6. I think the Jazz will take it. They'll win it at home in Game 6. They'll win one of the first 2, and then, again, they'll get it to... I think it'll be something like they'll win Game 1, lose Game 2, something like that. And then ultimately maybe lose Game 5 after winning the 2 at home. Something along those lines. Or back and forth. Maybe they'll win Game 5 on the road. And they'll close it out in Game 6. I see the Jazz and the Warriors going into the second round at the end of the day. Warriors versus Jazz will be a fun series. I think the Warriors will outlast the Jazz, unfortunately. But I do think Utah will be physical enough to kind of beat up the Warriors a teeny tiny bit, kind of wear them out a little tiny bit, and it could end up being meaningful going into the Western Conference Finals. But I'll say the Warriors in 6 at this stage. San Antonio and Houston is going to be a great second-round series. That'll be tops. The best second-round series in the NBA this season. This one will go to 7 games. It'll be back and forth. It'll be beautiful. But I think the true MVP in this league will beat a guy who is considered an MVP candidate. I think Kawhi Leonard will be the better. Will outlast the Houston Rockets. I think the Spurs will emerge victorious. I see something along the lines of just kind of, you're going to see games where each team wins by 10 points or more, like double-digit victories. Spurs will probably beat the Rockets pretty good in the first game. Rockets will come back and forth. They'll really play well in Houston. I think they'll force that 7th game after the Spurs take a 3-2 lead, that type of deal. And I see the Spurs just kind of being like a comfortable 8 to 12 point victory at home against the Rockets in the 7th game. And that's pretty much how I see things at this stage. I think Kawhi Leonard is just going to have an awesome series. You're going to see who the true MVP of this league is in that series. And to me, should be no doubt who is the most valuable player in this league, and it's Kawhi Leonard. Because if you're the best defender in the league and one of the best scorers in the league, and you're clutch, and you're physical, how are you not, to me, he's the best player in this league right now. That doesn't always necessarily mean you're the MVP, but at bare minimum, he's the best player in the NBA today. And it's not because I'm worshiping him, I love him so much, because I've hated the Spurs forever. With the way they just beat the hell out of the Wolves. Forever. The whole Tim Duncan career. His whole career. The way they bullied the Timberwolves. And then here we go again. Here you go again. They're just like the Detroit Red Wings in the NHL. They're not going away. I mean, they're going to make the playoffs how many years in a row? I mean, it's going to be like 30 years in a row by the time they're done. I got to think. So it is what it is, unless Kawhi gets hurt. And I hope he doesn't. I mean, as much as I want the Wolves to beat them, you don't want them to beat the Spurs or the Rockets or something because somebody gets hurt. So that's kind of lame. Even if like the Warriors got injured, that's kind of lame. It's because then they'll say, "Oh, the only reason we lost is because Steph was out or Klay Thompson was out." So just beat them head to head and tell them adios amigo. Obviously, Cleveland had that complaint a couple years ago, and they backed it up. They backed it up. Oh darn! I'm so sorry. They backed it up, Warriors fans, didn't they? Didn't they? Who backed it up? Did the Warriors back it up, or did the Cleveland Cavaliers back it up at the end of the day? Sorry. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Western Conference Finals. Warriors versus San Antonio Spurs. But let's go to the East first. Cleveland and Boston. I don't know, man. I really don't know. Is Cleveland up to it or is Boston up to it? I think at the end of the day, as good as the Celtics regular season was, the Cavaliers postseason for dough, that type of thing, until Boston proves otherwise, I'm going to pick the Cleveland Cavaliers to win that in 6. They'll take that 3-2 lead, come home to Cleveland, Akron, Ohio, whatever it is, and they'll beat the They'll beat the Boston Celtics in 6 games and go back to the NBA Finals. LeBron James' 7th consecutive NBA Finals. So now you go to the other feature presentation. Warriors versus Spurs. This is as good as it gets, unless you think Cleveland and Golden State's as good as it gets. And it was last year. The year before, not so much, but you saw some wonderful efforts here and there. Spurs versus Warriors. Yep. NBA Jam. You're going to see an awesome series, obviously. You're going to see a team in the Golden State Warriors they're not going to hold a candle to the Chicago Bulls. They're not going to hold a candle to what I think the Spurs team is going to bring this year. I see the Spurs on a mission, on their way. To me, it's like 2014 all over again, even though that year the Spurs are the number 1 record in the league, and they're going to have to really earn it. But if a team can win on the road, it's Golden State, it's the Spurs or the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously proved it last year, in the Oracle Arena. But the last team to knock the Warriors out before getting to the finals was the Spurs. And this is a way better Spurs team. Okay, not necessarily. No, what am I talking about? The 2014 team, no. But this is a younger Spurs team, a faster Spurs team. This is a team that's capable. This is a way better Kawhi Leonard is what I'm trying to say. That was a great Spurs team, but this is a great Spurs team as well. I think a team very capable of going all the way. I like what Kawhi Leonard brings. Again, Kawhi Leonard has been an NBA Finals MVP already. He's proven he can win in these big moments, these big spotlight, on the road, at home, whatever it is. Steph Curry in the NBA Finals, he never got the MVP, and he underachieved in both instances in the NBA Finals. Kawhi Leonard overachieved in the NBA Finals. I didn't think he was going to be the MVP of 2014, but then it's like, wait a minute, I guess he was. Oh, damn, I guess he was, but he was so damn quiet doing it, where now, instead of being Mr. 21, 22 points, 19 points, but great defense, he's Mr. 28, 29, 30 points, and even better defense, and more clutch. Why would I bet against this Spurs team right now? Against even the Warriors? Why would I bet against them right now? The Spurs will win it in 6 or 7, and if they have to go on the road in the 7th game into Oracle Arena, well, Cleveland Cavaliers proven that it's a possibility. I can see the Warriors being all kind of full of themselves, all excited, this and that, and maybe that's not what it is. Maybe they're just not as mentally tough as they think they are. You're going to see Kevin Durant rendered useless in this series, man. Everybody thinks Kevin Durant's just going to torch Kawhi Leonard. Are you kidding me? Nobody's going to torch Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard couldn't torch Kawhi Leonard. I'm telling you, he couldn't. He's an even better defender than he is a scorer, and he's one of the top scorers in the league. So to me, the Spurs will outlast the Warriors. It'll be a beautiful series, one way or another. Well, not really. The Warriors will have some moments where they're going to take huge leads in games. They're going to probably have double-digit victories. Of course they will, because that's just how it goes. Spurs aren't going to be perfect, and they're not perfect. But to me, I think the Spurs are going to prove they're the better team at the end of the day. And it's not just disdain for the Warriors. It's the fact that this Spurs team, I can see something. I can see something happening this year with this Spurs team more than last year. As good as last year's record was and how strong they were, to me, I don't see Oklahoma City Thunder or even the Houston Rockets knocking off the Spurs at this point. I'd be very surprised, actually, if the Rockets beat the Spurs as good as they are. And it's possible, but I would be very surprised. Spurs in 6 or 7. Spurs versus Cleveland, rematch of 2007 and LeBron's third opportunity against the Spurs, just like 2014. And unfortunately for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Spurs in 5 or 6, I think. The Spurs will outlast the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Kawhi Leonard, NBA Finals MVP, and he should be the regular season MVP as well. So right now I have the Spurs winning the NBA championship in 5 or 6 games against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, yeah, I'm being honest with you. I'd rather see Cleveland win. You know I would. And it's not because I'm just this crony for LeBron James. I mean, I'm a fan of his. And I like the Cleveland Cavaliers to a point. They're fun to watch, Kyrie Irving and all that. But the Spurs would beat them in the finals. Let's be honest. So it'll be number 2 versus number 2. And the Spurs win the 2017 NBA championship. And Mr. Greg Popovich will be like Phil Jackson's Bulls, 6 titles, but unfortunately not like combined, like back-to-back. So that's just very few teams can do back-to-backs, including the Warriors were unable to do that last year. So even the Heat did it. Wow. But yeah, Spurs will win their 6th championship this season, in my opinion. Let's come back for, I got to think, a fairly brief fan interaction. And we are back here on Timberwolves Explosion, 3rd segment, fan interaction. Again, I'm guessing this will be fairly brief, but could be wrong. Of course, I had some interaction on Twitter and all that, and whatever, with Warriors fans. I'm not going to get into all that because it's kind of childish stuff, so whatever. With the Blackhawks, I kind of got into it with Blackhawk fans about a month ago on Brave the Wild, and that was better. I met some nice people, so again, act like you've been there, and the Blackhawk fans, for the most part, act like they've been there. Warriors fans don't act like they've been there. So I'm not just saying, I'm saying. Now, I hope you like the Toe Jam and Earl bumper music from segment 1 into segment 2. You didn't get the Shadow Man one because it's not Timberwolves season. I'll still use that in the regular season or postseason on occasion, but today I just wanted to put that Toe Jam and Earl one in there. I didn't really have a little bit to go into that one this time around. And then, of course, the segment 2 into segment 3, the traditional bumper music from Zelda 2. I always got to put that in coming in. I don't know, I just got a vibe going from that. So the Twitter account, @WolvesExplosion, do follow it if you could. Would be greatly appreciated. I thought I had this ready, and it was. Okay, it's back. Got to thank Tanae Wilson-Brown and Vince Germano, Lakers, Pies, Browns. Now, who's the Pies? Fill me in on the Pies, Mr. Vince Germano, if you could. The Pies. Maybe it's a footy team, as you call it, in Australia. Tanae is out of New Zealand, and his brother, Levi Wilson-Brown, also out there, out of Gerald Gallant, named the first head coach in the Vegas Golden Knights. Interesting. He was a Detroit Red Wing years ago. But yeah, Vince and Levi brothers out of New Zealand. Cool. Levi, the older brother. Thank you guys for retweeting the show. I greatly appreciate it. Episode number 197, Grande Rubio, but I came out as Grade Rubio. That's embarrassing. Good job, Joey. Good job. @Wolves Explosion. So mostly it's just kind of back and forth, but at least Golden State of Mind, who is the one that kind of got things started. I don't know what TFW does. T2 bleeping. I'm not sure. I'm guessing it's bleeping, but at least Golden State of Mind follows me, so thank you. In case you're listening, that's actually kind of cool, considering it's got the blue check mark, and that's kind of cool. So thank you. Maybe they've heard the show before. They probably think I'm a jackass, though, but yeah, lots of back and forth. I don't know. Yeah, lots of trash talking, and it's kind of silly. Old news. The Wolves organization has always been trash. Well. Okay, not Flip Saunders, though. I wouldn't say that, so I don't know. These are some random people there. That's pretty much all it is. They're just making fun of... Yeah. And that's about it. Levi Wilson-Brown was... He gave me a like when I said 41 and 40. And that's about it. Pretty much... when I retweeted the new logo, didn't get a response from anybody, which is kind of weird. Not sure what's going on with that, and that's about it. So, Facebook, I'm going to give a quick shout-out to Flip's Army. Flip's Army, Trevor Wickerin, great guy, always kind enough to allow me to post a link to Timberwolves Explosion on the Facebook page. Great in-game interaction, in-game threads on there, and, of course, overall great Wolves conversation. Back and forth on the Wolves logos and such. Even saw, a leak early, which was a colorless-looking logo. It was similar, but it must have been some kind of a early version of it without colors, and it was the angle of the wolf was a little different. So whatever. But gotta say, please like and follow the Flips Army page for the Timberwolves on there. Look it up, Flips Army. Join it and enjoy. For Timberwolves Explosion, also, please do join the Facebook page. It'd be greatly appreciated. Facebook.com/Timberwolves Explosion. So this time it does fit. And, of course, the new background now is the new Timberwolves logo. Yes, you got the blue eye and the North Star, if that's what it's really supposed to be. Kind of cool. Not too bad. And not a whole lot of reaction going on right now. Vince Germano, though, says that looks awesome, and I appreciate that. Give me a little more feedback on what you think of it would be cool. But then again, maybe there isn't a whole lot to say. It's kind of stock at the end of the day. It's not bad. I like the colors, and of course the wolf itself is cool. The circle is meh, and the background, we look like the Washington Wizards, don't we? It's just the angle of the basketball is a little different. And yes, it does look like a blueberry, with a little, I guess. The circular thing is very stock to me. It's like, I don't know, like the Minnesota Wild did that too years ago, and it's just kind of, their circular logo. It's just kind of meh, I'm not a big fan of circular logos, but I don't know. The color scheme is interesting. It's nice. I like it. The navy blue and the lime green is cool. Just try not to look like the Seahawks when you bring out the jerseys. That's all I ask. God, talk about a cocky team, an arrogant a-hole team. And their fan base, too. But I didn't tell you how I really felt, did I? I think there's only one. Oh, no, it was Rubio, that is all. That's it. That's it for fan interaction. Damn it, you guys are quiet this week, huh? So it's mostly the logo and me getting in a fight with Warriors fans. Nothing new there, right? I've gotten in it with Nuggets fans and Blazers fans, too. God, I hate the Nuggets and Blazers. I can't stand them. Drive me crazy. There's a couple of teams out there I'd never get into it because I kind of like them a little bit. Obviously, Cleveland. Spurs fans, I never did get into it with them. Hawks fans, I would never get into it. Boston, no way. No way would I get in a fight with a Boston fan. That's, I love the Celtics. So, Laker fans, maybe a little bit, but they're not. Some of them are real bad and some of them aren't. It's like a mix. There's some of them that have that Warrior fan personality and others that are kind of like, they're like Vince Germano. They're educated basketball people. So, I can't get in a fight with him or any of the guys like Vince. So, Kalen Wood out there as well. It's just, it's just fun. Kalen Woods. So, thank you very much, guys. Courtside Podcast. Got to give a massive shout out always to the Courtside Podcast. I'll also give a quick shout out to the Crossover Podcast as well on the sportstuff.com. Rusty and PMAC, New York Knicks and Brooklyn Nets. The New York area basketball there. From Australia, though. From Australia, Sydney, Australia, in Russell's case, Russell. It's Rusty Bennett out there. Wonderful show. Do check it out. They don't release as much lately, but still check it out, though, and hear what they have to say. Hopefully they get back rolling again. I'm always, I'm like Dylan Richardson's number 2 guy on the sportstuff.com, so I'm very proud to post their show on the sportstuff.com and get it going on iTunes. If you're listening out there, Rusty and P-Mac, get your butts recording. I understand your team isn't in the playoffs. Neither is mine. Come back, talk about the playoffs. Missed you so much. Now for the courtside too. They're oft busy, oft on, oft out, oft on, oft out. I've been consistent this year, but I can't say I've been consistent all the time. And it's a frustrating team at times and a good team at other times. We're kind of like Portland, I guess, a little bit, where you look so good one night, and then you get killed the next night. So, kind of like the Blazers, just a little bit newer, I guess. Not as established as them just yet. But big shout out to the Courtside Podcast. Hope you guys keep that rolling in the playoffs. Definitely be on the lookout for a playoff show and such. They have talked playoffs off and on, but haven't had like the big premium type of show. Like say this one, you could call is a bit of a premium show. I suppose this would be a premium show because it's a lot of postseason in the second segment, which was a huge segment, and a little bit of mop-up duty in the first segment. Hope it wasn't too, I hope it was okay for you to listen to. And again, forgive my ranting on the Warriors. I can't help it. They're annoying to watch. Courtside Podcast, though. there's kind of two ways to listen to that one in a sense. There's you can go the iTunes route, which are, iTunes Double Twist and all that. Again, I forget if they're on Stitcher or not. I don't know. They probably are, but iTunes or Double Twist. Double Twist basically mirrors iTunes for Android devices, so anything on iTunes will be on Double Twist. So look at it that way for your Android device, since there's no iTunes on Android, and that's how you can listen to this show. And of course, again, the Courtside Podcast. Those are what they call the free shows. Obviously, they're free. And then there's the premium shows, which are on Podbean. And the free shows and the premium ones are on Podbean. But then it's like $20 a year to get the premium shows. You can still listen to the free ones on Podbean. That's an application on both Apple and Android and Windows devices. So that's how you get on hold there. $20 a year, very worth it. That way you can get all the premium shows, like, again, Christmas specials, season previews, playoff reviews, other productions they put together. Just fun, like greatest shooting guards in the NBA, stuff like that. That's fun to listen to, how they put it together. Jersey worthy, all that good stuff. So, again, big shout out to them. They're always kind enough to shout out to Timberwolves Explosion. And occasionally, if you forget, I don't blame you at all. Maybe you're way too into the show or whatever it is, or it's just, sometimes you're just not in the mood to talk about other shows for whatever reason. But I don't know. That's kind of how I roll. I'm always willing to give shout outs. That's just how I am. But I understand sometimes if you miss here and there. So people out there that haven't shouted out, maybe sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So it is what it is. Thanks again very much. Please do tell your friends about the show if you could. Those of you out there that I have met, those of you that I haven't met, it would be great to meet you. Facebook page, Facebook in general, Twitter account. Say hello, interact. Call into the phone lines, 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. It is a voicemail, so do treat it as such. Mention you're calling into Timberwolves Explosion. Do your statement, shout out, comment, question, and opine, all that. Keep it to 1 to 3 minutes when you call into that phone line. There's the Facebook page, of course, where there's the call now button, which uses Facebook Messenger to go straight to the sportstuff.com phone line, the Sports Stuff phone line, and it's treated the exact same way, 100%. So obviously there's a 3-minute limit on that voicemail, but if you want to do like more of a premium type of deal, audio submission, you can use your smart device, or hell, maybe you have Audacity and a microphone with your laptop, whatever, or computer, desktop, and you could record something, heck, anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes, maybe even 10 if it's like a huge thing. You really have a lot to say, as long as you kind of stay on topic and such. Then just get that going, save it, email it to paladinolive@yahoo.com, paladinolive@yahoo.com. That is called we basically in the podcasting world, we call that an audio submission when it's something like that. It could be like a little segment to the show. Like today, maybe it's a season review, State of the Wolves, whatever, who you want the Wolves to draft and how this went, that went. Like today, Vince Germano, Hank McCoy. You guys are more than welcome to do it. So you can obviously use the little recording applications on your smart device, whatever it is. That's always free to do that, I'm sure. And then email it to paladinolive@yahoo.com, like I mentioned. And then, of course, there's also the Audacity route or whatever recording application program you might have on your computer, and just email it into the same email. All this information is in the show description. Thank you again very much in advance for those of you that do participate. And those that don't, I understand you're busy, you're this, you're that. Who knows? Maybe you're not feeling good. Maybe you're not feeling up to it. Maybe you're just frustrated right now. Whatever it is. Maybe you have other stuff going on in your life. So it is what it is. We all have other things going on. So things happen. Please do give a positive rating on iTunes or Stitcher if you could for Timberwolves Explosion. I couldn't thank you enough in advance for that if you're willing to do that. And that's about it. We'll be back in the next couple weeks or so, kind of catch up with the playoffs. Or, I don't know, maybe I'll have a brief catch up next week. Who knows, depending on how the schedule goes. But it'll be in and out, kind of checkered in and out from here on due to schedule, this and that. But I'll do my best to keep up with the postseason from here on out, if humanly possible. Until then, take care, everybody, and enjoy.